All right. Welcome to another episode of the Musicians Talk Show podcast. This is episode 23. I'm one of your two hosts, Dallas DeWhite.
And I'm Matt Tolley.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Bandzoogle. Our buddies at Bandzoogle. They make it super easy to build a stunning website for your music in minutes. And I love that they're music-centric. It's websites built for musicians by musicians. You can't ask for more. Choose from literally hundreds of mobile-friendly themes, then customize your design and content just a few clicks with a super easy visual editor. You don't need to know how to code or any of that stuff. All the features you need for a professional website are already built right in, including tools to sell your music and merch. Get this, commission-free. They don't take a penny. Right there on your website. Mailing list tools to grow your fan list and send newsletters. Super important. You got to be doing that. Integrations to pull in content from all your social services. And, of course, live support from their musician-friendly team 7 days a week. These people know how to talk to musicians because they either are musicians or are married to musicians. So they're in the industry. Bandzoogle plans start at just $8.29 a month, super cheap, and also includes your own free domain name. So go to bandzoogle.com to try it free for 30 days, and if you use the promo code TMTS, we got you guys 15% off for your first year. A full year, 15% off. Use the code TMTS for the Musicians Talk Show. That's Bandzoogle, websites built for musicians by musicians. So who do we have today, Matt?
We got Rusty Cooley, the
Rusty
shredder.
Cooley is...
You know how we like that term around here.
His Bet You Can't Play This through the, I guess it's Guitar World magazine.
Yeah.
I should know that. But his Bet You Can't Play This segment, it literally looks like sped up.
Yeah.
Like someone took the video forward and put it at like 250% and was like, ha ha, what a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no.
No, he's really playing that
fast.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's mind-blowing. We get into so much cool stuff. What are some of the things we talk about, Matt?
Well, practicing is a big thing, and what to practice, how to practice, and stuff like that.
And who better to talk to than Rusty about practicing, who's not only a very accomplished guitar player, but a very accomplished teacher.
Yeah.
He keeps a very steady roster of students. And
his technique is impeccable. When you watch him, he's just
absolutely
unbelievably sharp.
Economy of motion.
Yeah.
Proper finger technique.
Yeah. And you have to be if they're that fast. It's crazy.
Yeah. You got to, every micro movement counts when you're doing that level. We talk about how he almost got the gig for Megadeth and why he didn't.
Yep.
Which might not be what you expect.
Yeah.
And
definitely wasn't because he wasn't fast enough.
It was probably one of my favorite parts of the podcast, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. It was good.
And we talk about so much cool stuff. If you're a guitar player, you're going to love this one. So let's get right into it.
Yes.
I wanted to start at the top. How did you get started in music? What led you to the guitar?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. Well, it's rather amusing, actually. I was in 8th grade, and me and some of my friends had been jamming to some Ted Nugent records with tennis rackets. This is way before Guitar Hero and any kind of thing like that. So we were jamming with tennis rackets, and and we got this brilliant idea after a couple of months that hey man, how about we get some real electric guitars? And that's kind of where it started. But beyond all the silliness, once I did get a real electric guitar and started playing, it's kind of one of those things that was just instantaneous. It was just like, a light switch went off and that was it, man. That's all she wrote. No looking back.
Nice.
That's awesome. What were some of those early guitar players that really got you wanting to get better?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my biggest influences of all time is Randy Rhoads, but even a little bit before Randy, I was really into the guys in Iron Maiden, especially Adrian Smith. I always wanted that Ibanez Destroyer, I think is what they called him back then, because it wasn't Explorer, but that red Ibanez that he played.
Yeah.
I was really into Maiden. But when I really started digging in and digging and understanding what was really going on, it became Randy Rhoads all the way. And and of course I was a big Eddie fan too, but Randy was the dude for me. It was a little bit the difference between Van Halen and Randy's stuff with Ozzy was a little bit more metal.
Mm-hmm.
It's poppy, not that there's anything wrong with that at all. It's just more of what I gravitated towards, the classical influence and stuff like that. And it really set me up to do a lot of things throughout my life, being inspired by Randy, because I didn't realize when I started playing guitar, I'd seen a couple of the columns that Randy had done or some things in back of a Hit Parader magazine. I don't even know if you guys know what that is or old enough to know what that is, but Randy talked about, using all 4 fingers on his left hand. And to me, that I didn't even know that was not an option. But apparently a lot of guitar players in the 70s and maybe even early 80s were still just using 3 fingers, and playing pentatonic and stuff like that.
Kind of more blues approach, I guess.
Yeah, and so I always used all 4 fingers, and which made complete sense to me, and was very inspired by classical music and wanted to know theory. And I started teaching guitar basically because Randy taught guitar. It was basically anything Randy did, I wanted to do, sort of thing. So had a huge impact on my playing and life in general. So that was really the main dude, for a while until Yngwie came out.
Okay, then Yngwie took over for you?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Yngwie, it was hard for me to deal with because I was such a Randy junkie that to fathom that anybody could possibly be better than Randy Rhoads. But, and not that he's better, it's just different, But technically speaking, it was just
faster, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think you can argue the tempos.
Right. So, and I don't know why I gravitated toward that kind of guitar playing, but that's what it's always just, I was fascinated by that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you kind of went full metal from the get-go with Iron Maiden and all that stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because before I played guitar, I was just listening to, crap they played on the radio. It's almost embarrassing. Listening to what other 8th graders and 7th grade girls were listening to. It's like, what's wrong with me?
There you go.
But anyway, just gonna kind of go on with that. But
absolutely.
Randy and Yngwie, and I was really into early Vai stuff. And
okay, cool.
So it was weird being influenced by Steve Vai and Yngwie at the same time at that point playing, because they're so different.
Yeah. Opposites, maybe.
Vai is almost like animated and comical and silly and cartoonish. I mean that in the best way possible, not in a negative way in any way, shape, or form. And Yngwie was just so serious. You know what I mean? It was just like hardcore minor, harmonic minor, and Phrygian dominant. I didn't even know what those scales were. Then it's just so, it's so stern and rigid. And then you got this comical, kind of silly, zany whammy bar stuff and legato and tapping stuff. It was far extremes, in my mind.
Yeah.
And it was a weird place to be as a guitar player because I'm torn in these 2 different directions. And how do you come back and meet somewhere in the middle to be inspired by both guys and take your influences and do something with it? So, Well,
that's probably the biggest question I wanted to ask you today was, how would you tell a young guitar player how to find their own voice? Well,
the best advice I can give you on that is to not just, if all you do is listen to rock guitar players, you're just going to regurgitate rock guitar players. You're not going to bring anything new to the table. So the best way to find your own voice is by listening to as many different styles as possible and being able to take something from that. If you're going to be a heavy metal guitarist, a rock guitar player, or whatever direction you choose to go for, you have to bring in outside influences, even if it's not even the guitar that you're listening to, because I listen to violinists, pianists, bassists. I'm inspired by all kinds of, different instruments. And it's by channeling all those things into what you decide to do, whatever your direction is, that's going to bring something new to the table, because you're not just rehashing same old thing over and over again. You've got to go outside the box to bring something new to the table and fuse it with your influences and your taste and whatever direction you choose to take it, So bottom line is just don't just listen to whatever it is you listen to at your everyday listening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Expand your horizons.
Yeah, you have to listen to all different kinds of stuff, because otherwise you're just going to be in a box.
Yeah, absolutely. You get trapped.
Not to keep talking about Yngwie, but look what Yngwie did. If it wasn't for all the classical music that he listened to, he probably would have just been another kind of Blackmore Hendrix sounding guitar player,
Right.
It was all the Bach and Beethoven and Chopin and stuff that he listened to that got that whole Bach rock or neoclassical style, brought that into a relevant thing. Because Randy was very inspired by classical music. Michael Schenker, Uli Jan Roth, all those guys were, but it wasn't until Yngwie that took that whole thing to that extreme. It's kind of like Eddie with tapping. Eddie didn't invent tapping. Ace Frehley tapped. Billy Gibbons tapped. But it wasn't until Van Halen, Interruption, that people heard tapping on that level.
Right.
And you were talking about Greg Howe earlier. I think I remember reading an interview with Greg Howe where he said he didn't realize that the tapping section in Eruption was tapping, and he actually learned it by picking.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the show. He was saying,
and then when he went and saw me, he was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of the lesson there, at least as I understood it from Greg, was we grow from our limitations more so than even new things we learn.
Yes, that's it's interesting. Back then we didn't have the internet, so we could pop it up and watch the guitar played exactly the way it was. And that's another really cool thing. I remember watching an interview with J.K. Lee not too long ago, and he was talking about when he was a kid that him and like 3 or 4 other guitar players would get together once a month. And they would all get together and jam, and they'd play the same songs, but they all played it a little bit differently because they all had to figure it out on their own. And nowadays, kids are just popping on YouTube, and they're learning everything from the same source, so they're all playing alike.
Right.
There's no real, mystery, or you got to figure it out. And I mean, that's part of developing your own style, how you figure out stuff and learn things.
Right.
But if everybody's learning it from the same source, then there's not much really left, right?
You're having a hard time being unique.
We're learning all from the same person or whatever, and
Yep.
The internet has its, like anything, it has its pros and it has its cons. You gotta use it for what it's worth, but don't base your whole existence upon it.
Right. So what do you tell your students to kind of help them not fall into that trap?
Well, what I tell them is that, look, the internet, it's a great thing, but if you're going to use the internet to learn stuff from, if you're going to learn, like, say you want to learn a solo by your favorite guitar player, the first thing that I'm going to tell them is to go try to find that guitar player teaching that solo or that song. If Marty Friedman's teaching, whatever, just for an example, back in the day, Symphony of Destruction or whatever, go try to find a video of him playing it and teaching it. And if you can't find a video of him actually teaching it via a guitar magazine or something like that, and you can find a tab for it or somebody else teaching it, go watch Marty play it live on a live video or the music video and see if the tab that you found is even in the right ballpark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, little Timmy next door, who's been playing 2 weeks, he's got his transcription of Smoke on the Water online. That's not where he learned it from. So there's a lot of crap online, and you want to avoid that. And the ways to avoid it are by going to the source. Go find Paul Gilbert or Yngwie or whoever it is that you're into, and see if you can find them teaching it or showing it. And if you can't, go watch them play it, and if you can find somebody else that's teaching it, that's in the, if they're not playing it in the right area of the fretboard or the neck, it's like, don't even bother. It doesn't matter if you have the right notes. Not anybody, but anybody with a decent ear can write out the right notes. But if it's not the right fingering in the right way that the original artist plays it, then it's a wash, because there's what are you learning from that? Not a lot. You're just learning notes, but you want to play it as close to the original as possible.
Yeah, and there's a chance you could stumble upon something by coming up with it, trying to figure it out by ear. You might find something inspirational in there. But, yeah, if you really want to recreate that sound that they had and learn the technique they used to make it sound as beautiful as it does, whatever it was that inspired you, then you should go and just look at them. Just watch them play it. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned that because when I was learning how to play guitar, I've always wanted to do my own thing from day one. But as all guitar players do, you go through a phase where you're developing your style and your technique and your playing ability, and you've learned things by your favorite guitar players. So when I was trying to figure out stuff by ear, about 5 or 10 minutes into anything I was trying to figure out, I would have written 5 or 6 of my own riffs by trying to figure out what it was. And that's how I kind of discovered that, hey, I'm kind of on to something here. So what I did from that point on was anything that inspired me or motivated me or moved me, I would, instead of trying to learn whatever they were playing note for note, I would just try to go for that vibe or that feeling and write my own thing. And 9 times out of 10, if I wrote something and I told one of my friends, hey, I wrote this kind of based off this, Vi tune or whatever. And they would go, wow, that doesn't sound anything like Vi.
Yeah.
And that was the cool thing because I came up with something off the inspiration from it, but it didn't sound like it. It didn't sound like I was just, it's one thing to be inspired, but don't wear your influences on your sleeve. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want to, otherwise you're just copying,
Sure, at least blend them all together into some sort of
right.
tasty stew.
So that's kind of how I, where my ear training and sitting down and trying to pick things off of a record or recording kind of stopped. I just, at that point, I just started improvising along with records and stuff like that, which was pretty cool, you know.
So all this talk of teaching and learning, I'm curious, what's the most common mistake you see guitarists make? And then on the flip side, what's the most common mistake you see teachers make?
Well, those are both pretty serious questions. As far as students, I think the biggest mistake a student can make is that anytime they see a guitar player that's better than them, and at any level, I think a lot of guitar players, you know, it can even happen at your, you know, most professional level, is a lot of times if you see somebody that's better than you, you think what they're doing is correct. And that might not be the truth at all. You know what I mean? And it's more common in younger players. You've been playing a couple of years, you see somebody that's older than you or better, and you think what they're doing is right. And that's a bad way, or an easy way, to pick up a lot of bad habits. Because they could only be, maybe they're only a couple of pages ahead of you, you know, in whatever, you know, method or whatever you're studying. And then you pick up these bad habits, and it's like, you know, I swear to you, I'll get students that'll come in that have been learning off the internet or YouTube. And it'll take me 6 months to correct all the wrong stuff, unlearn that stuff, before I can even get them on the path to learning and going forward again. You know, so make sure that whoever you're learning from, if you do choose to learn stuff offline or online, like I said earlier, go to the source, make sure that it's a reputable source, and, you know, it's really legitimate, because any kid or anybody can put anything up online and say, you know, this is the gospel, you know, and it's far from the truth. But now, what was the other one? What
common teacher mistakes?
A common teacher mistake is letting your students, not correcting students' posture and form and technique. I mean, I get students that have taken lessons from other teachers, and they'll come in and their hand position's all wrong, or their thumb is like hanging over the neck when they're trying to play a 3-note per string scale, or, you know, you know, I guess it's, you know, and I don't know any better way to say this, but sometimes ignorance is bliss. If you don't know you're doing something wrong, how can you teach somebody to do something right?
Right.
You know, so I guess that goes back to the student in many respects, but then again, they're the student. How are they going to know? They're looking to you for advice. So it's a vicious cycle, really. You know, It's hard to know that you've got the right teacher, and if you don't have the right teacher, how do you know? And that teacher doesn't know what he's teaching you is wrong. You know, how do you build from that? So, I don't know.
Right. This next question may seem like, you know, pretty simple, but I'm interested to hear your take on it.
Sure.
What are the benefits of taking lessons as a beginner, or not even as a beginner, as any level student of music?
Well, there's a lot of benefits as long as you find the right teacher for you, and you know that, you know, you've done the research, and you know the guy that you're going to be taking lessons from is going to give you what you need. The benefits can be great. I mean, you can learn all kinds of stuff about music theory and technique and writing music and improvising, and, you know, and a good teacher can help you set goals and, you know, teach you how to practice. That's one of the biggest things that's overlooked, is how to practice. You know, that's not a very largely discussed topic, you know. Even like in, you know, in schools, they don't really teach kids how to study, you know, which is a form of practicing. You know, if you don't know how to study, then, you know, what are you doing? Just rereading the text over and over and over again, trying to memorize every single thing. So, you know, it's there's a fine art to that. So, you know, you got to know how to practice, and a good teacher can teach you how to practice. And then, like I said, if you set goals, you have to have a practice schedule that's going to get you to attain those goals. You can't just have goals without, you know, some way to get to that goal. So there's, and then the exposure to different styles of music and things like that. A good teacher is going to expose you to all those different things, and not just guitar players, you know, you know, rock, jazz, blues, funk, fusion, pianists, violinists, you know, whatever, maybe just vocals, you know, studying an awesome singer's vibrato and then trying to apply that to your guitar playing. That's a lot to be learned from that.
Yeah.
You know, So, yeah, a good teacher can teach you a lot and take you a long ways.
Okay, so speaking of practice, what do your practice routines look like routinely?
My practice routines suck right now. It's
what would you like them to look like?
Right. What I would like to be doing is practicing 5, 6, 7 hours a day again. That'd be awesome. But that's just not the reality. It's that old saying, life happens while you're making other plans.
Yeah.
But I would like to be just continuing. Music is never ending.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty and the beast of it. But I really think of it more as the beauty of it, because we can continue to learn forever. It would take many, many lifetimes to master an instrument, if there is even such a thing. Mastery to us is only what we know of as what we consider to be the best musicians in our time.
Right.
Or even before us, Bach and Beethoven. The really old dudes are really badass. It's like, how do those guys get to be so amazing? And we're still trying, But, I'd like to be just continuing to grow. So that means just becoming a better improviser, becoming a better writer, expanding my knowledge of chords, scales, music, harmony, just pushing to something new, trying to discover new things and bring in new things from, other artists and composers, and trying to embellish that into my own style and playing. I mean, there's so much to be learned from, like again, the really old guys, Chopin and Liszt and Beethoven and those guys. I mean, why don't we have that kind of level of education these days? I mean, who taught those guys?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? How did that all of a sudden? Where did those guys pop up from out of nowhere in history?
All at the same time, roughly, too. It's weird.
Right. You know what I'm saying? That's weird. It must be ancient aliens. No.
I know.
Ancient Aeolians. No.
Nice. There you go. Music puns on the Musicians Talk Show. Gotta love it.
Right.
So if you had 1 hour to practice, most people could probably find 1 hour to practice. How would you divide that hour up into, specifically for guitar?
Sure. It would just depend on what I needed to get done that day, because my practicing now is based on what's going on. Do I have a gig coming up? Do I have a video shoot? Am I doing an instructional thing? So I practice based on what I need to, what's going on. And if I don't have anything going on, like a deadline to meet for some, musical thing I got to perform or whatever, if nothing like that's going on, then I just kind of practice on what I'm kind of into at the moment. And maybe I need to work on more legato stuff, or maybe my alternate pickings, not where it needs to be. So, because to me, an hour really isn't much time.
Absolutely.
Because when I practice everything with a timer, and not like a metronome, but actually like a timer. I used to take my mom's kitchen timer.
Egg timer.
And I set everything for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got an hour and you divide that by 5 minutes, you end up with about, 60 divided by 5 is what? Who's good at math? Quick.
Music, not math. Sorry.
Right. Okay. So anyway, you get
the
the
Musicians
point.
Talk Show. Come on.
There's going to be you're going to be able to practice about 10, 12 things, something like that, in 1 hour if you divide it into 5-minute sections. So, I would probably, if I only had an hour to practice, I would just probably pick one subject. Maybe sweep picking or alternate picking or tapping or something like that. But just focus on it. And every 5 minutes, it would be a different example, but based on whatever technical subject, or maybe it doesn't even have to be a technical subject. Maybe I'm going to improvise. But when I'm improvising, I'm not really basing it on every 5 minutes. I might do a different track every 5 to 10 minutes. You know what I mean? If it's just improvisation. As far as just an hour, it'd be based on one subject, really, just a different example every 5 minutes. And the beauty of that is, sometimes I'll talk to people and other guitar players or students, and they're like, yeah, I practiced this one lick for an hour. And I'm like, what? Really? I mean, to me, that doesn't make sense, to practice one thing for an hour when you could have practiced at something different every 5 minutes that pertains to the same subject.
Right,
because
break it up.
You're going to get more out of it because your hands are going to be going in different directions, even though it's the same subject.
Right.
I mean, it might be a different particular picking lick or whatever. It's like if you're talking about alternate picking, it's just as important to practice everything starting on an up pick as it is down pick. You know what I mean? To be a truly proficient alternate picker, you've got to be able to start on any beat, at any part of the phrase, on an up or a down pick. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever mastered that or if there's such a thing, but that would be the ultimate quest.
Yeah.
To never be phased by what direction or what part of the beat or anything like that. You just go. And, for the longest time, I practiced everything starting on a down pick. And so that meant my immediate string change was going to be on an up pick if it was 3-note per string ideas. And, there got to be a point when I started writing all this heavier kind of stuff than what I'm doing now. And a lot of that stuff is starting on a down pick, but it's inside picking. You know what I mean? Right. Inside picking. And so I didn't even know what inside picking was the first time I heard the term, but unbeknownst to myself that I'd been doing it for a long time, because that's what you do every time you change strings. Every other string group is an inside pick. But I didn't even know I was doing it. So a lot of the rhythm guitar stuff that I write has inside picking in it. So at some point, it's, you're accenting a lot of stuff on the up pick. And that actually helps some of my lead playing, and then I'll turn around and I'll start practicing things with 3-string groups. So say you're like in a G major scale and you play 3-5-7 on the 6th string and then 3-5-7 on the 5th string. And then you just go one note on the 4th string, like 4th fret, right? So that's, the first 7 notes of a G major scale. Yeah. And that 7th note on an up pick. It's going to be a down pick. That feels really weird to me. You know what I mean? After practicing so many 2-string exercises where I'm always changing on an up pick, So if I do a 4-note per string chromatic scale or that quasi-chromatic exercise everybody learns in the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right across the fret.
Yeah.
Changing every string on a down pick is just like the weirdest thing to me, So by practicing a lot of these rhythms and learning a lot of these rhythms that I'm doing now, the inside picking at some point turns around to be almost like starting on an up pick. But even beyond that, I'll sit and I'll practice everything starting on an up pick. That way, when I change strings, it's on the down pick.
Yeah.
Just to kind of, back in the day when I was doing all those exercises, it seemed to make sense, but I didn't realize that's not what happens every time you change strings.
Yeah.
So a lot of my lines, like extended runs and stuff like that, are based around, and unbeknownst to myself at the time, I was doing this and mapping everything out to change perfectly on an up pick. Looking back, I can analyze it now and go, oh, wow, that's why I was doing that, and that's why that worked, and that's why this didn't work. And, if you take one of those old traditional sequences like 4, the digga, 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 that kind of thing, it's constantly, changing directions, and that's why I was never good at that one, because there was too many different string changes with different pick directions.
Right.
So I've found ways around that.
Yeah.
You do 4s and 5s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's kind of cool because you get a mixed odd grouping of notes, and which brings a whole new flavor to that sequence.
Right.
Because it's not just straight 4s.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially with odd numbers.
Right. So that's pretty cool. But I still, I'm not avoiding it. I know what I'm good at, and I still try to practice the things that I'm not good at. That's all part of growing, Don't avoid the things you're not good at, and if all you do is practice this stuff you're good at, then what's the point of that? You're not learning. You're not getting better.
Definitely.
Right. Challenge yourself.
All this talk of upstrokes reminded me, one of Paul Gilbert's warm-ups is just chugging, like, 8th notes with upstrokes, and then he'll do triplets, and then he'll do 16ths, but they're all ups, and it's like...
Right.
It'll throw you for a loop if you're not used to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially
it's
up to speed, it's like, I don't even know.
Yeah, I haven't seen Paul do that, but it's funny. A good buddy of mine, Mark Tremonti, talks to, we talk him, sit around and play guitar and stuff, and he talks about some of his warm-up stuff, and he'll start by just doing open string exercises. Like he'll start with unpicking as fast as he can on the low E string.
Right, yeah, I've seen Mark do that, actually.
Right, and he does what he calls go to failure. It's like something bodybuilders do, or when you work out, you use those terms.
Yep.
And that's a great thing. You just start by warming up, just down pick as fast as you can till you go to failure, and then do alternate picking. So, and you don't have to go through all the groupings, because if you're not playing with a metronome, an 8th note, a 16th note, and a 32nd note, it's going to be the same. You're just going to do it as fast as you can, right? So you alternate pick, and then you do a gallop, and you do a reverse gallop, or just triplets, to failure. That's going to warm your hand up.
That's interesting.
Yeah. You did the No Guitar is Safe podcast with Jude, right?
Yeah.
And that's I heard that episode, great episode, and Paul's
Thank you.
episode is where he showed that upstroke thing, and
Okay, cool. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that.
Yeah,
I'm sure his is pretty terrifying. You know.
Anything Paul does is terrifying.
but it's funny because on Paul's very first REH video, I forgot what it's called, something Intense Rock, I think. He talked about like when he first started taking guitar lessons, he was like 9, and his first teacher told him he could only do upstrokes or something like that.
I did hear something about that, but I always kind of wrote it off as a legend, where
he actually talks about it. He talks about it on that first.
Oh, that's awesome. That's crazy to discover that that's not a myth.
No, it's not a myth. So he's like, well, I thought all I could do was up picks, and
that's hilarious.
And he goes, and I kind of put the guitar down or something, and came back, and I discovered, well, you can pick down too, and it's pretty funny. So check out Intense Rock 1. I'm sure you can find it online.
What a cool
yeah, but that's a real thing
to have.
Yeah, he talks about that on that first video.
That's
it's kind of
awesome.
like Eric Johnson with the battery thing. I actually got a chance to interview Eric when I was doing the Guitar Asylum TV thing several years ago, and that whole thing about the battery was like, he was like, that's the biggest blown out of proportion thing that's ever, that's all they remember, but it wasn't like that at all. It's not like you can hear the difference between this battery or that battery, and
right.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's amazing how, so I would question that too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
It's just one of those things, you hear your friends say it and you're like, oh, okay, maybe.
Right.
I'm not going to go around telling everyone else that, but when you were talking all that talk about upstrokes, that Paul thing you just said also came to my mind, but I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'm glad you did.
Yep.
So Rusty, we heard that you got the call from Megadeth a few years back, and we wanted to, or maybe it was less than that, but we wanted to hear about maybe your take on that. I think you had some good discoveries there when that happened.
Yeah, man, I was, I know the guy that used to tech for Dave, and before Chris Broderick was in Megadeth, I think it was Glenn Drover, and when Glenn left, I ran into Dave's guitar tech at NAMM, and he told me that at that point he had recommended me to Dave, and I was like, well, it's cool. I never got the call, but cool. And then it was, I think it was NAMM, I don't know, it's been a couple years now, so it was probably 2014, maybe somewhere around then.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact day, but I was at NAMM, and I came home, and I had NAMthrax. It was really, dude, I was like, felt like I was on my deathbed. And my artist rep from Dean called me and said, hey, you need to call this number tomorrow, or somebody's going to, I don't remember what it was exactly. He said, you need to call this number, or somebody's going to call you from this number tomorrow. And it's a potentially career-changing call, and you need to be ready. And I said, okay, cool. And it turned out that it was Justice Mustaine. And he called me, and then I tried to call him back, and I was really sick, so I could barely speak at that point. And then this was like on a Monday, and then by Thursday, my guy from Dean called me, and he said, look, Dave Mustaine's been trying to get a hold of you. Why aren't you not calling him back? I said, dude, I got a call from Justice, and that was it. And I could barely speak. And then he goes, well, call Dave now. Here's the number. I said, okay. So I called Dave, and so he said, I'll call you tomorrow. Okay. And he tried calling me the next day, and like I said, I was really sick. And so I couldn't talk enough to be able to talk to him on the phone. So we were texting and emailing and stuff like that. And he was like, he said, he was, Dave was nothing but a gentleman to me. And, all the stories you hear about him being whatever, I never saw that side of him ever once. He was nothing but a gentleman. I was sick, and he was asking me if I had anybody there to help me, and you need to eat this, and what are you eating, and how are you taking care of yourself, and you need to go to the doctor. And
that's awesome.
He was more concerned with that than do you want to do this gig? And, and at first I was really wholeheartedly going to do it. And, at one point he's like, just learn some songs. He goes, you're already past the hard part, dude. Just start learning some songs, and let's get you out here. And, cool. And, so I started getting better, and I was learning some songs, and the real deal breaker for me was not really anything to do with Megadeth itself. It was that I'd been divorced for a few years, and my daughter moved in with me. She'd only been living with me for a few months. And at that time, it was like, I can't do this. I can't. My daughter just asked me to let her, she wanted to move in with me, and I said yes. And there was no way I could, in my state of mind, go, okay, well, I'm going to go join Megadeth, and I'm going to tell my daughter to go back and go live with her mother, which she didn't want to do at the time. And I'm going to miss teaching her how to drive and get driver's ed, and miss this very important part of her life to me that I would never, ever be able to get back.
Yeah.
And 10 years from now, I don't want to look back and go, oh, yeah, I was out on the road with Megadeth every day on a tour bus and playing in front of all these people and whatever. But my daughter was back at home needing her dad, you know.
Yeah.
That doesn't set well with me. And I've never been in the music business. The music business to me has never been about money. It's always been about art and me. You know, I want to do what I do that makes me happy. So playing in Megadeth just wasn't in the cards. You know what I mean? It would be great. And I see what Kiko's doing now in Megadeth, and he's in the magazines and all that. You know, that's great, man. But, you know, that's, in the end of the day, that's not what makes me happy. You know,
right.
I want to be here for my family and whatnot. And I always got into music just to do what I do.
Right.
And playing in Megadeth would have meant that I've been playing 20 years worth of somebody else's catalog and playing everybody else's guitar solos every night. And I've got so much to give musically myself that how does that fit in? There's no room for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I always feel like everything that I'm trying to do is behind as it is. It's hard enough for me to get my own stuff out, let alone that I have to start sitting on it and not be able to do anything with it. You know, it's just kind of stifling. And playing in Megadeth would have probably done a lot of great things for my career and elevated me to a whole new level, and it exposed me to a lot of people that might not have ever heard me. But in the end of the day, that's not really what it's about to me. You know, I have to do what I do because that's what I do, and not because I'm trying to be famous or a rock star or any of that other bullshit, because none of that matters, you know.
Right.
You know, when it's all said and done, I want to leave something behind for other musicians and guitar players to learn from and grow from, and just be a contributor. And I can't contribute if I'm playing other people's stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Everybody has their own path. You know, and it's not to say that if I got a call from them again or somebody else that I wouldn't do it. It's what's going on at that particular moment. My daughter lives with me right now. You know, things are different now.
Yeah.
So I would probably would have at least pursued it and gone out there and jammed with them just to get to know them and see if we'd even get along. You know, because it's one thing just to accept an offer, but I don't want to be in a band with somebody that I don't get along with, or, you know,
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're going to be on a tour bus with these people.
Sure.
And I'm not talking about Megadeth, any band that you're in. You're going to be on a tour bus with these people 18 hours a day, and you're going to get off that bus and play for 2 hours or an hour and a half. And then you're going to get back on a bus for another 18 hours. You better like them a lot.
Yeah, stage time is minimal compared to the time you're spending around.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, living with them.
And so it's got to be the right gig. You can't just do it for money or whatever.
Sure.
You might as well just, you know, if you're doing it for money, you might as well just go get a job at a bank or flipping burgers or something like that, because, you know, you're not doing it because that's what you love, you know. So bottom line, it boils down to where your heart's at and what you believe in and what you love. I mean, you got to do what you do. I mean, not even, you know, it's not very often that people are in a position to do what they love. But when you are in that position, you better make sure you keep it that way.
Yeah.
You know, don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Because they can change any minute. And being a musician can turn from being fun to being a hired gun. And you need to be here at this time, and, you know, you got to do this, this, and this. And then it becomes just a job, and that's not fun anymore. That's not creative or healthy, really.
Right. Speaking of creative, how do you stay creative on the guitar after years and years and years of playing so many hours a day? How do you keep your creativity, you know, at the level you want it to be at?
Well, sometimes it's difficult, but at the same time, you know, the difficult side of it is that when I was younger, I used to look to other guitar players for inspiration and things to go for. But when you get to a certain level, and not saying that I can do anything that anybody else can do, but when you get to a certain point in your playing, that you can't look to somebody else to push your technique to another level. You got nobody to drive you. And that can be a little weird, especially when you've based everything that you do on is becoming as good as your guitar heroes. And then when you come to that level technically, not maybe not creatively or songwriting wise, but when you come to a physical level of your guitar heroes, then who do you look to? Right. I mean, there's nobody else you can look to for inspiration. You have to look outside the sources, and that's what classical music has done for me, listening to violinists and pianists and stuff like that. And then on the flip side of that, what we talked about earlier, the beauty of music is that it's infinite. You know, you can continue to learn forever. And that's what I have to remind myself of at times. So maybe if I'm not inspired from a technical standpoint, or have somebody driving me to, I've got to play that fast, you know, or I've got to do this technique or that technique, there's always something new to learn, you know, and that's what keeps me going. You know, I was with a student a couple of weeks ago, and he started talking about some, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was some chord progression analysis. And he started talking to me about something that I didn't know about. And I was like, what are you talking about, dude? You know, and it was like, at that moment, I realized that I haven't learned any new theory in a long time. Now, I kind of settled into the level of theory that I knew about harmony and chords and how things work melodically and whatnot, that I was like, wow, I need to hit the books again, you know? Mm-hmm. So there's so much to learn, but you've got to seek it. You got to do the research and try to, you can never just be content.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the bottom line is, as soon as you stop learning, you stop progressing. And if you're not learning something new on a daily basis, you know, you're gonna get stagnant after a certain point of time. You know?
Yeah, I think everybody goes through phases like that where they feel like they maybe aren't progressing like they want to, and that alone breeds the drive to get better or learn something new. Even just, you know, even if it's way outside of your box, just go, you know, try and do something different, and then maybe come back with a fresh review. Absolutely, you know, and that's sometimes, you know, because as a guitar player, I listen to music two ways. I listen to music from a standpoint of a guitar player when I want to hear something and learn from it. And then there's some music that I listen to that I just listen to for my own enjoyment, and I don't try to learn from it or sit there with a guitar player mentality with my arms crossed going, oh, yeah, I can do that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And sometimes it'd be better if I did take that standpoint with certain music, because there's a lot I can learn. Because a lot of times when I listen to certain classical music or jazz music, sometimes it's just beyond my knowledge and comprehension. So I just enjoy it. You know, I don't try to analyze it or pick it apart. And, you know, maybe that's where I need to get back into and start trying to pick some of the stuff apart that I don't understand and learn what it is that makes that music what it is. Do you
think when you do understand it, like say you do hear something that you enjoy and then you go down and you trace it to find out what it is that you're hearing that you like, do you think that changes your perspective on it when you're listening to it? You know, like, are you able to enjoy it the same way maybe?
Yes, I think so, because when I'm just listening to it for pure musical enjoyment, that there's something you get out of that as a listener. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you can understand it, if you're in your right state of mind, you'll be smart enough to appreciate it to a greater level, so that you understand that's what they're doing. Oh my God, you know what I mean? Then you get that aha moment. Yeah. And you understand it to a greater level. It's not, oh, I get that. That was nothing. You know, I mean, you can't have that attitude like, oh, I get it. So that's, you know, that's beneath me or whatever. I think that's a moment of growth where you go, oh, I get it. Now I can, you know, implement that into my playing and see where I can take that idea. And that's why that works. Mm-hmm. You know, to me, it's always a learning process. What can I learn from that? And, you know, how can I grow from it? You know, and you know, like I said, there's some music that I listen to that I've just, you know, it's like trying to figure out what the hell Meshuggah's doing. You know? Yeah. You know, it's like, sometimes I just got to listen to it and go, man, this is awesome. And that's all. I'm not going to think about what's going on musically, you know? Right. You know, that's just one example. I mean, try listening to some of Virgil Donati's stuff in Planet X and count those
Planet X and Virgil.
Yeah, me too, man. And just like, sometimes I just have to let that go and just listen. Just enjoy it. Same. You know? Stop trying to analyze. I don't know what times. I don't know. I don't want to know right now. It's just cool. Let's dig it. Mm-hmm. You know, but at some point, you know, it does need to be analyzed for your own musical growth, you know, because there's so much to be learned from it, you know. So
we had Tony McAlpine on the show, and I was dying to ask him about alien hip hop.
Yes, and love it, man.
I asked him, and I was like, you know, what was the writing process like? He was like, oh, I didn't write that. Virgil wrote that. I was like, okay, one, that's cool, but two, damn, like I really wanted to. I want to know. I really wanted to know more about that song. That song is amazing.
You know, Virgil writes most of that stuff.
Oh yeah, and his solo albums are, you know, He's otherworldly for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently bought one of his solo albums. I can't remember which one it is, but it's a pretty recent album. It's just sick. But it was funny because I got to know Tony over the last couple of years, and I taught with him last summer at the John Petrucci Guitar Universe.
Right, yeah.
And Tony's a super cool guy, man. I mean, I can't state that enough, how cool he is. And he's just a great guy and very welcoming and just a great dude. And after we taught up there, he came through Houston. He called me up. I was like, dude, we're playing, in a week or something. Come out and play. We're gonna play Stratus. So learn the song. And I was like, all right, cool. And went out and jammed with him. And we hung out that night and went and got something to eat and stuff afterwards. And it's just good dude, an amazing guy. And it's funny too because I had asked him some similar questions. That song is awesome or whatever we were talking about. And he's like, well, yeah, I didn't write that, but I was there during the writing process. And so he was there when stuff was going on.
Right.
But, he might not have written that riff or whatever, but, because I was talking about some of the stuff on Derek Sherinian's first solo album. Mm-hmm. What is that song, Acropolis or something like that? It's got all that crazy stuff in it. You know what I'm talking about with all those breaks?
I don't know the song, but I know Derek's work, and I know it's probably insane.
First song on the first Derek Sherinian Planet X album. It was before Planet X was different than Derek Sherinian stuff.
Right.
Acropolis 1816 or something like that. I can't remember, but it's got that stuff in the middle of the song where they're doing all those fast runs and with the breaks. Mm-hmm. Talking about, and I was asking him about that, and he's like, "Oh, it's just this and that," and like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Well, cool. You want to break that down for me?
Yeah.
But super cool dude.
So, do you ever write or work in odd meters? I mean, I'm sure you do, but
yeah. For me, it's more, for the most part, it's more hindsight because I use my theory and my knowledge of music theory and stuff like that to understand what it is that I'm creating. You know what I mean? So if I write a riff and it happens to be an odd time, I don't really think about it till after it's done and I have to write it out or tab it or teach it to somebody in my band. And then I go, oh yeah, it's this time signature because. But when I'm writing it, I don't purposely ever set out to write in an odd time signature. In other words,
right?
Because to me that's too. I don't know. It sounds fake. It's not genuine to me. Just because you have a vast knowledge of time signatures doesn't mean that you just sit down and write in time signatures for the sake of writing in time signatures. You know what I mean? That's not genuine to me. Sure. You let the music and the notes fall where they fall. And then you can go back and go, yeah, that was in 7/8 to 6/8 to 7/8 or whatever. But I never had under any circumstances, sit down and go, I'm going to write in 7/8 today or 5/8 or whatever. It just kind of happens. And I think if you are a fan of time signatures, I think I'm kind of lucky in that respect. And I think I have to attribute that to being self-educated. When I first started playing guitar, I tried taking lessons for a couple of months from a couple of different guys, and they weren't able to play like the guitar players I'd listened to. So I just couldn't handle learning Twinkle Twinkle Little Star every week in open chords.
Yeah.
So I quit lessons, but because of my lack of instruction, my own fault, I think something cool happened there where I started just naturally kind of playing in some odd time signatures for just whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe because nobody was there to say, hey, you're playing one too many beats on this, or whatever. So right. I just developed my own sense of timing, and sure. It happens to be a lot of, if it is in 4/4, a lot of times it's syncopated in such a way that it doesn't feel like 4/4. And I don't count things like a lot of people count things. I'll count things based on subdivisions. So if you have a bar of 4/4, and I'm going to play in a low E open, and I play a power chord on the first fret of the fifth string, it'd be open 1, open 1, open 1. I would count that like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 when it could just been counted as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and.
Right.
I'm counting it based on the subdivisions. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think I might have said that wrong, but it would be based on a straight eighth notes, one bar. Be 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. That'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But because of where the open note lands or the power chord lands, it's on an upbeat, and it's hard to count that straight by just counting it by traditional means. But it makes more sense to me to subdivide it,
right,
to 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, or whatever. So I do a lot of counting that way, which is, if I'm trying to tell a drummer that or another person in my band, they don't, it's guitar players counting and then drummers counting. Do you mean, that's 4? That's 1 pass to me. That's 4 to you. Or
yeah, exactly.
Talking about sections of a song or something like that. So that's kind of my take on it. I mean, I don't know. I try not to let the music theory and that stuff take over my playing. I try to let it be more of a means of understanding what it is that I played or created or what I'm listening to, to help me understand it. Never let one good idea be one good idea. If you understand music theory, then you understand what it is that you created, and therefore you can transpose that into many different ideas and many different keys or time signatures or whatever it is that you want to do. You know what I mean?
So your music theory knowledge can help you expand on your idea rather than your music theory knowledge driving your ideas.
Exactly. I mean, music theory is not a means to an end. It's just to help you understand what it is you created or what you're listening to or things like that. So you understand music.
Yeah, really. That makes a lot of sense.
It's crazy to me when I hear guitar players say, "Oh, I don't want to learn theory because it's going to stifle my creativity."
Yeah, we hear that all the time.
It's like, dude, that is so much bullshit.
Yeah,
it's going to do quite the opposite.
Yeah,
music theory is not going to make your playing less creative.
I always say it never can hurt you to know more.
Right, and I think a lot of guitar players that don't know about theory, they think that they're going to all of a sudden have to write by rules.
Yeah.
But you're not writing by rules. You're just learning to understand what it is that you created or how to make things work easier. I mean, I can't imagine, to me, not knowing music theory is like being dropped off in the middle of nowhere and pitch black of night and saying, okay, find your way home.
Right.
Well, if you drop me off out there with a GPS and a flashlight, I'd get there a hell of a lot faster.
Yep.
Right.
So the other means of travel, you might starve to death first, might not ever make it out of the forest, So I can't imagine spinning my wheels for 10, 20 years and just hunting and pecking and guessing my way around the fretboard. It's like when you go to an open mic and you see some guy that takes 8 to 12 bars to figure out what key the song's in.
Yeah, wow.
It's like, I'd much rather you go, hey, it's an A, and go, okay, cool, let's go.
Yeah.
God, it's terrifying. It's not just to think that not knowing theory is terrifying to me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you don't somehow forget all the theory.
No shit, brother. Amen. So yeah, it's a good. It's not a negative.
Absolutely. So I wanted to shift gears to talk. Oh, hey there,
Sure.
A pun because I wanted to talk about gear. What opinions do you have on amp modeling, Kempers, Axe Effects, 11 rack, those kind of things? Are you a tube amp guy? Are you a Axe Effects Kemper guy? What do you?
Yeah, I love my tube amps. I had an Axe Effects. I had the original Axe Effects Ultra, and then I had I don't know, what was the first Axe Effects? They made tube models of it.
I know there was the Ultra. I know there's the 2, and then I know there was a floor model called the SX8 or something.
When the Axe Effects very first came out, they had 2 models. I had the higher end model of that, and then they came out with the next version, and I had the higher end model of that. And I can't. It's not the same. Just for me, it's not the same. I love the effects on it.
Yeah, I think everyone loves the effects on those.
That's what I ended up doing. Is I ended up using it for effects only, and I used my heads.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people use it that way.
Yeah, over the last few years, and actually, I've been playing a Bogner Uberschall for quite some time, and I also have a 6505 Plus, and I had a Splon Nitro, and
great stuff.
I had a couple of other heads, come and go, but I'm always using the tube heads. But I don't really have any experience with the Kemper, so I don't have any pros or cons with that. I've used the 11 rack a little bit. I have one at my house now. A friend of mine let me borrow for recording purposes, but I just got it, so I don't have any real feedback either way on that. But I did teach. I have a instructional video with TrueFire. It's called Wikipedia. And I used they had an 11 rack, and I used that for that instructional video, and it was pretty cool. I don't think it would be something I would use live. It'd be something, I would use at home for demoing and stuff like that. Again, I don't know much about the Kemper. I heard the Kemper's awesome.
The Kemper seems to be the one where people play the Axe-Fx, people play the 11 rack, line 6 stuff, and they say what you just said. It's not the same. The Kemper seems to be the one that some of the people that say it's not the same start saying it's the same, or at least that's so close enough that Right.
That's what I'm hearing. And it's funny because originally my singer in my band was just totally pushing the Kemper stuff on me, and I started to almost get to the point where I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to do it. And then I talked to him a couple weeks ago, or about a week ago, and I said, dude, he goes, well, I'm not really sure now. And I'm like, what?
What?
Don't pump it up to me and then get me all worked up and to the point I'm going to try it and maybe invest some money into it or sell something to buy it and then go, oh, well, it's not, it's not all that or whatever. It's like, oh my God. But I mean, I have a lot of guitar player friends that use those things and they use them live.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I swear by it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm almost getting to the point where it's like, I'm sick of pedal boards. I'm sick of amps and multiple cabinets that, I'll just plug into my iPad and let's go.
That's what I think the Kemper offers. It offers, even if it's, let's say 5 to 10% worse than your tube amp, whatever worse means, the convenience factor is 500% more than a whole pedal board and, two heads and all the cabling that, it's just like it's so, and where the Axe-Fx may be 50% worse, not quite ready to sacrifice 50%, but I'll sacrifice 10%.
Right.
It's like, or, to some people's ears, it's identical. Like I've profiled amps with mine and A/B them, and I've tricked people, which one's the amp. I don't know. Like it's gotten pretty damn good.
The old blind test for Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah. Yeah. Which to me is ridiculous. Pepsi tastes so different.
I'm such a Coke.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah. I can't do Pepsi. I do not like Pepsi.
Tab, Pepsi, whatever. I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Remember Tab Cola? Ugh.
Dr. Thunder, like all the off-brand
Oh my
ones.
God, that's awesome, Dr. Thunder. That's like Kroger brand Dr. Pepper.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, I can't do it. This is just brown water. Like,
yeah. What'd you say, brown water? That's great.
It's just like brown. It's gross, man.
Chocolate flavored water.
Yeah. There you go. Hot dog flavored water. How about that?
That's it. Yeah. Oh, man,
Limp Bizkit makes an appearance in the Rusty Cooley podcast.
There you go, man. Fred Durst and what for?
So, speaking of gear, I know you have some pretty awesome endorsements. What advice would you give other players looking to kind of get endorsements for their own career?
The bottom line is, don't take an endorsement for the sake of an endorsement. Only play the stuff you genuinely love, because if you do, you're going to have to play the crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know so many guitar players that think getting an endorsement is going to help their name recognition and help build their career, but it's not. Just having an endorsement doesn't mean anything. I mean, because the people you're getting an endorsement from want you to be out there, so they're gaining something from it to help them sell their equipment. And it's weird because, when I was a kid, I used to always go, man, I need an endorsement now because I can't afford gear. When I'm famous or rich or whatever, I'll buy my own gear. I don't need it to help then, That's to me was what an endorsement was when I was a kid, It's like, I don't have the money now. Help me,
Yeah.
But the bottom line is you've got to play what you love and believe in. And then if you can happen to get an endorsement using that gear, then that's a bonus. But don't take an endorsement for the sake of an endorsement. That's just wrong.
And I love asking that question because I've asked several people and they've all said similar things. So
yeah, the stuff I play, I stand behind. I would play it whether I had an endorsement with it or not.
Right.
And that's how I got a lot of my endorsements. It's like, well, I'm already playing the gear. I call up a company and they're like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, well, I don't need anything. I'm already playing the gear. I just like to make it official. I don't know what you call it. Just make it official that I endorse the gear and we can help promote this stuff together and spread the word.
Yeah,
sure. So it comes from a very genuine place.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, you can't do anything. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. Well, people see through it anyway. So
yeah,
better not.
To me, I'm only going to play the stuff that I'm going to play.
Right.
I'm not taking it for free gear or whatever. That's stupid.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the new music you're doing.
Sure.
What do you have coming out?
We've got Day of Reckonings. That's my band, Day of Reckoning. We're about to release Into the Fire Part 2. And we're right at the tail end of an Indiegogo campaign, which unfortunately, this is going to be out way after that's over. Otherwise, it could probably help us get some more funding going on. But the second CD is going to be coming out, and it's like I said, Into the Fire Part 2. We've got just released a music video from it called Betrayer, and you can see that on my YouTube channel, which is just MrRustyCooley.com or Mr. Rusty Cooley at YouTube or whatever. However they do that URL thing. But sorry, I'm kind of slow at some of that stuff. Technology.
YouTube confuses everyone. You're not alone.
Yeah.
They change their shit every day. So
right. So I mean, that's the main thing right now. It's just I'm putting all my energy and effort into Day of Reckoning, and we've got the CD coming out, and we've got the Indiegogo campaign coming to an end in a couple days, if not already.
Okay.
Ended, and just continue to push forward. And I'm at the point where I'm starting to think about doing an instructional. I mean, not an instructional, but a new instrumental album. People have been asking me to do that for a long time, and I haven't felt it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I did the one instrumental album years ago, and it was a seriously arduous task. It was not fun to me by the time it was over, because I want to play guitar. I don't want to write drums. I don't want to write bass. I don't want to write, I just want to play guitar. And that instrumental album was me at home programming drums and writing bass lines and writing keyboard lines and all this other stuff. And it was just like, it left a bitter taste in my mouth. So I was like, man, I don't see myself doing an instrumental album for a long time, if ever again. But I've got a new take on it, and I would like to do something different. And I don't want to say too much about it, but if I do follow through and do this, it's going to be different. It's going to be more almost like etudes and caprices or something like that, along those lines. And it might a lot of a bit of unaccompanied guitar stuff, like kind of like the caprices, Paganini's caprices, but it's just like a big guitar. But that's a serious task in its own thing, because who's going to buy a record of 24 unaccompanied guitar solos? It's got to be something monumental. It just can't be 24 guitar solos or whatever. You know what I mean? It's got to be seriously well thought out and planned, and something to be learned from. Etudes or studies for other classical musicians to learn from, and they're really cool pieces. And caprices are a little bit more advanced than an etude. They're more like showpieces, than a study of something. So I'm just kind of formulating the thoughts right now and accumulating some material. I have a lot of stuff left over from my original instrumental album, and I have a lot of things, little musical bits and pieces that I could turn into something that could become that.
That's
that
cool.
Makes any sense.
Yeah, that's cool.
I just want to do something different. I just don't want to write another instrumental guitar record.
Right. Well, good to go
it's going to be way different than what I've done before.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some things similar, but it's kind of like, I look back on the things that I've done from my early band Revolution to Outworld, my instrumental album to Outworld, Day of Reckoning. And, one of the biggest things that I can tell other guitar players is that I've learned just as much what to do as what not to do from my guitar heroes. The biggest thing that I don't want to do is put out the same record for the next 20 years, and I want to continue to offer something new. And if you look at what I've done from Revolution to solo album to Outworld and Day of Reckoning, the one thing that's uniquely the same about all those things is me. But what's different is my environment. I've changed my environment in every one of those situations. But if you strip away all the instrumentation around it, it's still me.
Yeah.
But it's different. You know what I mean? I'm not putting out that same record. I'm not putting out that same sound every album, and I just want to continue to grow and contribute and not just rehash,
Yeah, that's smart.
I want to do as a continual progressive move forward movement, lateral or linear movement, but forward movement.
Right. Okay.
No parallel movement. I don't want to do the same thing, but a little bit to the left or to the right, no swerving,
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm striving for. And if I do put out another instrumental record, it's going to be somewhere along the lines of that, something different,
Awesome.
And at the same time, I want to show other sides of my playing, because a lot of people are like, you would not believe the shit I hear. Oh, can you play slow blues? Can you play this? It's like, really? I just want to, it makes me scratch my head, and sometimes it's like,
yeah.
Yeah, I could probably do that. I don't know.
I play whatever I want. That's what I always say to people.
I hate
whatever
when
I want to
see fast playing and they say like, oh, it's just he can't play with feeling though. It's like, dude,
Right.
shut up.
Like, Exactly. I've got on my desktop on my computer, and I posted this on Facebook not too long ago. It's a picture of Al Di Meola, and it says, it's a bunch of bullshit every time guitarists say one note says much more than a 100.
Yeah.
And that's from Al Di Meola and Guitar World magazine.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, you know what? It's Al Di Meola can say that and get away with it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm ready to go that route.
Take on those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not ready to take on the fucking Facebook stuff.
Oh, dude.
I just...
How about this? You have to be able to play at a certain level technically before you can have an opinion on that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I couldn't... That's a brilliant statement right there, bro. Is that yours, or did you get that from somebody else?
I didn't realize that was anything special. I just said whatever.
That's a very
that's good.
wise statement. You need to fucking
pay your dues a little bit.
Trademark that or something. You know what I mean? You need to trademark that.
That's not egocentric at all to just quote myself constantly.
There you go. That's great. Just quote yourself.
No, seriously though, it seems like all the people.
You know how many people would latch onto that statement, bro?
Well, it just seems to me that every time I see it, it's a bunch of people that like bought a guitar 20 years ago and never played it and love David Gilmour. And there's nothing wrong with David Gilmour, but he's always the prime example that they go to when it's, Rusty Cooley shred, versus David Gilmour holding one note for 5 minutes. It's like, dude, they're both valid. Like,
right. It's not even a comparison. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and David Gilmour should not be put in the same category.
Right.
I mean, David Gilmour is David Gilmour, and I do what I do. Why isn't there enough room in the world for both?
Yeah. There is. People are just small-minded. But
I know.
Andy James said it best. Why can't anger be an emotion? Why can't aggression be an emotion? Why can't we put that into the guitar?
That's great, because that's funny that he said that, because I use that all the time. I'm like, because when a guitar player says something about feeling or emotion, I know what they're talking about, and it's one emotion only. And we as human beings have so many more emotions than that one feeling.
Right.
That's exactly what Annie said. We have hate, anger, rage, anxiety, fear. There's so many emotions, but why do guitar players latch onto that one? Because when somebody says they don't play with feeling, I know what they mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Slow blues, right?
It's that one thing, right?
Yeah.
But you never hear anybody going, God, B.B. King just plays slow. Doesn't he know more than 2 notes?
Right, yeah, you never hear it the other way, exactly.
You never hear it the other way. But at the same time, Stevie Ray Vaughan, who was a fucking ripping badass blues player and a more of a shred, if you want to, that's not really a proper word to use for Stevie, but that dude played the hell out of the guitar, and nobody ever dogged him out for not playing slow blues. I mean, even though he did play slow blues in there, but the majority of the time he was ripping it up, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. But nobody's ever dogging Stevie.
Maybe it's because it was older. I don't know. It seems like the classics kind of get a free pass for anything.
I don't know, man. But it's all
the unanswerable questions here on the Musicians Talk Show podcast.
That's right, unanswerable. We will ponder these things for the day.
We'll continue to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Rusty, where can our audience find you and your band and keep up with what you're doing?
You can find out. You can certainly keep up with me from my website, which is just rustycooley.com, and you can also, check out my Facebook page, which is, Rusty Cooley 1 or The Real Rusty Cooley. I have a fan page and a personal page, either one of those. And, of course, anything Day of Reckoning that will keep you up to date with the band and stuff like that. That's the places to go. And from there, you can find all the other stuff, YouTube and Twitter and all the other million, multimedia pages that we have to keep up with as musicians these days.
Tell us about it.
That's a whole other... Don't get me started on that. If I could walk away from it right now, I would.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's not even fun. It's not fun, man.
Yeah. It's like every day I got to post here, post there, keep up with
it. Your relevancy is based on your numbers of people and likes and all that bullshit. It's like,
numbers again. Yep.
Right. Numbers. Right. I don't want to count.
All right, Rusty, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. So much value here for our listeners, and I'm so happy about that. So thank you so much for spending an hour with us and just kind of talking about music.
Absolutely, man. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show, guys. I appreciate it more than you know. It's great. It's a great thing, man. I appreciate what you all do, and keep doing what you do.
Hey, guys. First of all, thank you so much for listening. If you could please take a quick moment to subscribe on iTunes and leave a rating and review. Your feedback seriously is really important, and it helps us keep the show alive.
Check out musicianstalkshow.com to sign up for our mailing list. If you do, we're going to send you our main theme song and a few other surprises. Plus, you'll always be the first to know what episodes are coming up.
If you want to help support the show so we can keep putting out the highest quality content possible, please follow the Support the Show link at our website and consider donating to our Patreon page.
Lastly, if you have an idea for a guest or a question you want to discuss, contact us through any of the contact forms on our website, and we'll do everything we can to make it happen.
Whew, all right, that was a lot, but we got through it. Thanks again, guys, and we will see you soon.